Pistons versus Knicks, this game that was held on Friday. I just want to quickly go over it with you guys here. For those of you that are like really into the association like myself, man, love the game, study the game, really in tune with the best teams. You want to see kind of how they, I don't know, develop, how they kind of perform game to game against some of the better competition around the league. I mean, that's what I do when I watch the game. I want to see what the teams are doing, who they're becoming, and kind of the matchups. So we've got a matchup here that two better teams in the Eastern Conference, Pistons versus Knicks, potentially an Eastern Conference Finals matchup, based on how well these teams have played thus far this year. So I'm really invested in these kind of games. Right? I really do watch hoops, man. I know a lot of people talk hoops. They watch a couple of games here and there. They watch a couple of players. I'm really into the association. So coming into this game, Karl Anthony Towns was doubtful. He ended up not playing. He had that eye contusion thing, had a cut over his eye. I'm guessing they're just going to try to give him some time to heal because they don't want it to open. And I think probably wants to avoid wearing a mask and that sort of thing. But anyways, the Pistons are now officially 2-0 versus the New York Knicks this year. First quarter of this game, Pistons defense, A+. Knicks offense, F. Just not good. So those were kind of my takeaways as I was watching the game. The end of the first quarter, the Pistons made a brief run after Cade went to the bench. Jenkins, my goodness, man. Every time I watch the Pistons play, this guy is killing it. Defensively, they're making stops, turning it into transition buckets. I think I saw like an 11-point lead after the first quarter. Didn't really change much going into the second quarter either. More Pistons, getting second chances, the offensive glass. Amen Thompson's defense was great. Cade got an opportunity to rest basically the first half of the second frame, and they even built on their lead. I think the Pistons were like plus 15, plus 18. Brunson was ice cold in the first half. Turned into a 20-plus point lead for the Pistons through the first half, and it just wasn't a good half for them. Second half, Brunson got it going a little bit, but the Pistons' lead ballooned. It was like 30-plus points going, into the fourth quarter. Pistons, I don't know, Tobias Harris was great. Duncan Robinson get whatever he wanted. LeVert played nicely. Jenkins was terrorizing the Knicks. And then in the fourth quarter, the game was completely out of hand. It continued to work in the Pistons' favor. Their bench was in a couple minutes into the fourth quarter. Knicks did the same thing. The defense had no answers for the Pistons. The Knicks, I think, had 3 quarters where they scored 20 points or less. They shot poorly. They were sub 40% from the field, sub 30 from 3. They lost the glass battle. The offense couldn't score points. The defense was worse, right? I don't know. Shamet was getting fried. And he's typically like, I don't know. I don't know him as a bad defender, but just some games, man, the guys on the Pistons were just really, really good. And the Knicks just didn't have, anything to really push back on. So anyways, I'll just wrap up this video like this. I watch these games because I want to see how these teams match up, right? And the Knicks don't look very good against teams like the Pistons, who in my opinion are top of the class. And, I've talked about this on my podcast as well as, the guys on the format. Shout out to Bruce and Transformer. Specifically, Bruce was commenting that he's not really sure if he believes in the Pistons. I get the concern, right? Like, will they make the step in the playoffs? People had the same concern about the Thunder last year. Will they make the next step? You saw them get bounced out of the playoffs consecutive years, those kinds of things. There comes a point where these teams, they make that step because they play a brand of basketball that is sustainable. The Pistons defense is very, very good. Like, I'm not going to say their defense is as good as the Thunder last year. I'm not going to go that far. But it's good enough. It's very good. It's good enough where it creates offense for them, right? They get out and they push the pace and they get transition buckets like you see on the screen. That is sustainable when you're running teams off the floor and you're creating instant offense from your defense making plays, and everybody on your team basically buys in. Like the whole Pistons team plays defense. It's the same thing with the Thunder. We have to start looking at the Pistons as the new Thunder in a way. Cade, the new SGA, if you will. I'm just talking about versions of them, right? So, like, who are the Pistons? Who are they becoming? Well, they're basically like the Thunder were last year. And the Thunder, they're not going anywhere. I think there's a possibility that these Pistons could be the team that represents the Eastern Conference in the finals because the way they play defense. And the offense has balance. Guys contribute. Bench players, role players, the stars, the main guys, the bigs, the guards, the forwards. It really, like, they made the Knicks look silly. And, I would guess that the outcome probably wouldn't have been that much different if Karl Anthony Towns played, because Karl Anthony Towns' defense probably would have been a net negative for the team in this game. Sure, he would have provided some offense, so maybe they would have lost by 25 instead of losing by almost 40. See what I mean? Look, I watch these games, I draw these conclusions based on what I see. This is not hyperbole. This is not someone who's looking at the stat sheet. I didn't even really look at the stat sheet that much in this game, just to see how bad some of the discrepancies were with the turnovers and stuff like that. But I know what I saw. This was an ass whooping. The Pistons are clearly better than the Knicks. The Pistons are clearly the best team in the East. The Celtics are a real threat too, but the Pistons are better. They appear to have more overall talent, and they seem to play better collectively as a team, and they win games in different ways. That's important. Like, if a team takes something away from you, can you still win? I mean, Cade was good, but Jenkins was killing the Knicks. Tobias Harris was scoring. You're getting buckets from Karis LeVert. Inputs from all over the place. Amin Thompson played great. This is a sustainable, balanced form of play from the Pistons. I don't know if they have another game with the Pistons. Hopefully, Cat's back and stuff like that. You can see what the matchup is like when they're both kind of at their full force and have their guys. But I think it's pretty clear to me the Pistons are the best team in the Eastern Conference. They play great. They're well coached. They got talent. I think they play for each other. It's kind of like how the Cavs were last year, if you guys remember those magical runs that they had right before all their injuries kind of derailed their season. I'm going to talk about the Cavs in a different video, but the Pistons are clearly the best team in the Eastern Conference, and there is a gap and some space between them and the Knicks, and I think also with the Celtics, and I like the Celtics too. They're very good. Anyways, let me know what you guys see from the Pistons, and what do you think about them moving forward through the rest of the year? I think for the Pistons, it's about staying healthy, continuing to grow as a team, and just being ready for the playoffs to make that run. I think it's a foregone conclusion. These guys are the top of the East. But let me know. Drop me some comments.